In 1993, a small British game developer released a war game that would spark one of the strangest controversies in gaming history. It wasn't the violence, it wasn't the humour. It was a single red poppy on the game's logo, a symbol of remembrance that suddenly turned a satirical Amiga game into a national debate. This is the story of Cannon Fodder. The early 90s were a golden era for the Amiga. Sleek, colourful, and ahead of its time, the system became a home for quirky, innovative developers. One of those studios was Sensible Software, led by John Hare and Chris Yates. They were best known for Sensible Soccer, a fast, fun, top-down football game that earned cult status in Europe. But in 1993, they decided to do something different, something darker. They set out to make a war game that didn't just play like a strategy shooter, but also made a statement about the absurdity of war itself. Cannon Fodder puts you in control of a small squad of soldiers, viewed from above. You guide them across missions filled with enemy troops, bunkers, vehicles, and chaos. At first, it feels like just another action strategy title, but the details reveal a much sharper edge. Every soldier has a name, and when they die, they stay dead. Their name gets etched into the game's virtual graveyard, marked with a tiny tombstone. Even the recruitment screen doubles as a cemetery. Fresh soldiers line up for battle while the hill behind them slowly fills with graves from your previous failures. The message: these aren't faceless troops. Every soldier lost is another life cut short. What makes Cannon Fodder unusual is its blend of satire and tragedy. On the one hand, it's fun, fast-paced, and even darkly humorous. Enemies explode in exaggerated fashion, and the action keeps you hooked. But on the other hand, it's a subtle critique. The developers often said their goal was to show the futility of war. And here's one of the stranger inspirations for the game's tone. Emmerdale Farm. Yes, the British soap opera. It's important to note that Emmerdale Farm itself is a soap opera set in a fictional farming village, and the inspiration taken by Cannon Fodder was specific to the visual and aesthetic aspects of the rural settings and landscapes rather than the themes or storylines of the show. But despite its clever design, the game is mostly remembered for something else: its logo. The original Cannon Fodder artwork featured a red poppy, the same symbol used in the UK to honour fallen soldiers on Remembrance Day. To the developers, the choice made sense. The poppy symbolised sacrifice and death in war. It matched the game's message, that war consumes lives, often needlessly. But many people didn't see it that way. The Royal British Legion, the charity that runs the official poppy appeal, strongly objected. They argued that using the symbol in a video game was trivializing, even mocking, the act of remembrance. Tabloid newspapers piled on, calling the game disrespectful and tasteless. Headlines accused Sensible Software of exploiting war for entertainment. Some shops even refused to stock the game. In one memorable exchange, John Hare defended the choice by saying, "The poppy is not trivialized. If anything, it's given more respect. The game says there are no winners in war." But the damage was done. For many people in the UK, Cannon Fodder was branded as the poppy game. And yet, the controversy didn't stop it from being a hit. On the Amiga, Cannon Fodder earned rave reviews. Critics praised its mix of strategy and action, its addictive gameplay, and its surprisingly emotional tone. It went on to sell strongly and was later ported to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Mega Drive, and other platforms. But the poppy logo never fully went away. On later versions, it was replaced or toned down to avoid further backlash. The controversy also followed its sequel, Cannon Fodder 2, 1994, though to a lesser extent. By then, the novelty had worn off, and attention shifted more to the games themselves. Years later, in 2005, Cannon Fodder 3 was released, but it lacked the heart and vision of the originals, and fans mostly consider it a forgotten footnote. Looking back, Cannon Fodder stands out as a game ahead of its time. It wasn't afraid to mix fun gameplay with social commentary. It dared to be satirical, while also making players feel the cost of their actions. And the controversy, while frustrating for the developers, arguably helped cement its place in gaming history. Today, the red poppy logo is remembered less as an insult and more as a bold statement, one that forced people to think about the role of war in games, long before war shooters dominated the market. So in the end, was Cannon Fodder just a quirky war game? Or was it a satire that hit too close to home? Maybe it was both. What's clear is that 30 years later, people are still talking about it. And that's the true mark of a classic. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into gaming history, make sure to subscribe to Tales Without Voices for more stories about the games, controversies, and forgotten tales that shaped the industry. And remember, war has never been so much fun.